What if I told you that your soulmate has just uncovered a truth they never imagined existed, and it has completely shaken everything they thought they knew? Stay with me, because this isn't about a small misunderstanding or a forgotten memory. This is about discovering the hidden side of a story that remained invisible for far too long. Until recently, they believed they understood exactly why certain things happened between the two of you. They trusted what they could see, accepted what they were told, and never questioned the pieces that seemed to fit together. But life has a remarkable way of revealing the truth when the time is finally right. One unexpected realization led to another, and suddenly they found themselves looking back at the past through completely different eyes. Moments that once seemed ordinary now carry an entirely new meaning. Silence they once misunderstood now feels filled with untold emotion. Choices they once questioned suddenly make perfect sense. The deeper they reflect, the more they realize that there was an entire story unfolding behind the scenes that they never knew existed. What has affected them the most is not simply learning new information, but understanding how much remained hidden beneath the surface. They are beginning to see the quiet struggles, the difficult decisions, and the emotional burdens that were never openly shared. Looking back now, they realize they judged certain situations before knowing the complete picture. That realization has left them feeling deeply humbled, because they understand that the truth is often far more compassionate than first impressions. Every memory they revisit now reveals another missing piece, and with each new discovery, their perspective changes even more. And listen carefully, because something extraordinary is happening within your soulmate. The more they uncover what truly happened behind the scenes, the more they recognize how different everything could have felt if they had known the full story from the beginning. Instead of holding on to old assumptions, they are allowing understanding to replace judgment. Instead of asking why things unfolded the way they did, they are beginning to ask what those hidden moments were trying to teach them all along. This emotional awakening has surprised them in ways they never expected, and deep inside, they can already feel that this remarkable discovery is only the beginning of a journey that is about to transform the way they see you and the connection you share forever. And listen carefully, because after discovering that there was far more to the story than they had ever imagined, your soulmate could no longer leave the past alone. Instead of accepting old explanations, they found themselves quietly searching for the missing pieces they had never thought to question before. It was almost as though someone had handed them a puzzle they believed was already complete, only to reveal that several of the most important pieces had been missing the entire time. The more they looked, the more everything they once accepted without hesitation began to feel incomplete. Conversations they barely remembered suddenly returned with unexpected clarity. Certain reactions that once seemed confusing now appeared to have hidden reasons behind them. Even the smallest details, things they would have ignored in the past, suddenly demanded their attention. It wasn't because someone forced them to look deeper. It was because their heart refused to accept a version of the story that no longer felt true. One realization quickly led to another. They began noticing that many of the conclusions they had reached were based only on what was visible at the time. They had never considered that while they were seeing one side of the situation, another completely different story was quietly unfolding beyond their awareness. There were difficult choices being made that they never witnessed. There were silent struggles taking place that no one explained. There were moments when emotions remained hidden because someone believed protecting the connection was more important than defending themselves. As these possibilities continued unfolding in their mind, your soulmate felt something they hadn't expected. It wasn't only surprise, it was disbelief that so much could remain hidden, while they confidently believed they understood everything. Because your heart needs this right now. Life has a remarkable way of reminding us that the truth often exists beyond what our eyes can immediately see. People make decisions based on incomplete information every single day, believing they possess the entire story when, in reality, they have only been holding a few scattered pieces. Your soulmate has come face to face with that lesson. They are beginning to understand that assumptions often grow where understanding has not yet arrived. This realization has humbled them because they can now see how easily appearances can hide extraordinary acts of courage, compassion, and sacrifice that remain invisible until the right moment reveals them. As they continued exploring these forgotten moments, another unexpected pattern slowly emerged. They realized that every time they believed someone had simply remained silent, there may have been a reason that silence existed. Every unanswered question may have protected someone from greater pain. Every delayed explanation may have been carrying a burden that words could not easily express. Instead of seeing silence as absence, they started seeing it as something much more meaningful. Sometimes silence is not empty at all. Sometimes it is filled with emotions that never found the right moment to be spoken. That thought alone completely transformed the way they began interpreting everything that happened between you. And listen to this, because the deeper they searched for understanding, the more they noticed that their old perspective was quietly disappearing. They stopped asking who was right and who was wrong. Instead, they began asking what everyone involved had been carrying that remained unseen. That single question changed everything. Rather than focusing on visible events, they became interested in invisible motivations. Rather than judging actions alone, they wanted to understand the emotions that created those actions in the first place. It was a completely different way of looking at the past, and with every answer they uncovered, another layer of misunderstanding quietly disappeared. What surprised them most was realizing that many of the moments they once considered insignificant were actually connected to something much larger. A brief conversation, a delayed response, an unexpected decision, or even a quiet goodbye no longer felt random. Each moment now seemed linked together, like chapters of a story they had only partially read. As those chapters slowly came together, your soulmate found themselves overwhelmed by one undeniable thought. If they had known the complete truth from the beginning, they might have understood everything differently. That realization settled deeply within their heart, because it revealed how easily people can misinterpret situations when they only witness what happens on the surface. Because your heart needs this right now. Some of life's greatest revelations do not arrive through dramatic discoveries. They arrive quietly, one missing piece at a time, until the picture becomes impossible to deny. Your soulmate is experiencing exactly that kind of awakening. They are no longer satisfied with simple explanations because they have learned that genuine understanding requires patience, compassion, and the willingness to look beyond appearances. Every hidden detail they uncover replaces another old assumption with clarity. Every unanswered question slowly finds its place, and with each new realization, they become more certain that what really happened behind the scenes was far more meaningful than anything they could have imagined. Deep inside, they know they have only uncovered part of the truth, and what they are about to understand next will change not only how they see the past, but also how they see you forever. And listen carefully, because the moment your soulmate finally understood what had really been happening behind the scenes, they didn't react the way they expected. They thought the truth would simply answer a few lingering questions, but instead it completely changed the way they viewed the entire journey. It felt as though someone had quietly turned on a light inside a room they had been walking through in darkness for years. Nothing around them had physically changed, yet everything suddenly looked different. Situations they once believed were simple now revealed incredible complexity. Decisions that once seemed confusing now carried quiet wisdom. They realized they had spent so much time trying to understand outcomes that they had never stopped to understand everything that led to those outcomes. That realization settled deeply within them, leaving them speechless in ways they could never have anticipated. As this awareness continued growing, they found themselves asking questions they had never considered before. What if someone had been protecting them without ever saying a word? What if certain explanations had remained hidden because revealing them would have created even greater pain? What if what appeared to be distance was actually an act of silent care that no one recognized at the time? These questions did not come from suspicion. They came from a growing awareness that life is rarely as straightforward as it first appears. Every answer they uncovered seemed to reveal another layer beneath it. And with every layer came a deeper appreciation for everything that had remained invisible for so long. Because your heart needs this right now. Some truths do not arrive to make us feel guilty. They arrive to make us wiser. They remind us that every person is carrying experiences, emotions, and responsibilities that cannot always be seen from the outside. Your soulmate is beginning to understand that the greatest mistake was never failing to know everything. The greatest mistake was believing there was nothing more to discover. That understanding has completely transformed the way they look at every moment connected to you. Instead of seeing isolated events, they now see a story filled with quiet courage, difficult choices, and emotional resilience that remained hidden beneath the surface all along. The more they uncovered, the more one realization continued returning to them. There were moments when you could have defended yourself, but chose silence instead. There were opportunities to explain everything, yet you carried the weight alone because you believed protecting peace mattered more than proving a point. At the time, those choices may have appeared confusing, even frustrating, but now they understand that silence sometimes requires greater strength than endless explanations. They have come to appreciate that not every act of love announces itself with words. Sometimes it reveals itself through restraint, patience, and the willingness to carry burdens that no one else even knows exist. This understanding has left them feeling both amazed and deeply moved. And listen to this, because something else has quietly changed inside your soulmate. They have stopped viewing the past as a collection of mistakes waiting to be judged. Instead, they see it as a collection of lessons waiting to be understood. That single shift has transformed the emotions surrounding every memory. Rather than replaying old situations with frustration, they now revisit them with curiosity. They are no longer asking who should have done more or who should have spoken sooner. Instead, they ask what each moment was trying to teach them about compassion, trust, and the limits of human understanding. Those questions have opened their heart in ways they never imagined possible. As this emotional awakening continues, they begin recognizing something even more remarkable. The truth they uncovered has not only changed their opinion of the past, it has changed the person they are becoming. They feel more patient than before because they understand how easily appearances can mislead. They feel more compassionate because they now know that every visible action may be connected to an invisible struggle. Most importantly, they have become slower to judge and quicker to seek understanding. This transformation has happened quietly, almost without them noticing, but it has become one of the most meaningful changes they have ever experienced. They realize that discovering the hidden story was never only about learning new information. It was about becoming someone capable of seeing with greater wisdom, because your heart needs this right now. Every meaningful revelation carries two gifts. The first is the truth itself. The second is the opportunity to become a different person because of that truth. Your soulmate believes they have received both. They now understand that what happened behind the scenes was never meant to remain hidden forever. It simply waited until they were emotionally ready to see it without fear, without assumption, and without the limitations that once clouded their judgment. That readiness has allowed every missing piece to fall into place, creating a picture far more beautiful and far more emotional than they ever imagined possible. Deep within their heart, they know this discovery has already changed the way they will love, the way they will listen, and the way they will value the people who quietly carry burdens without asking the world to notice. And for the first time, they understand that the greatest truths are often the ones that reveal not only what happened, but also who we become after finally seeing them clearly and listen carefully, because discovering the truth was only the beginning. What truly surprised your soulmate was what happened after the shock began to settle. They expected the hidden truth to answer old questions, but instead it created a completely new responsibility within their heart. Once someone sees the full picture, they can never honestly pretend they are still looking at the old one. That is exactly where your soulmate finds themselves now. They know they cannot return to the comfortable assumptions they once relied upon because those assumptions no longer exist. Every hidden detail they uncovered has quietly rewritten the story they believed for so long. And now they are faced with something far more difficult than discovering the truth. They must decide what kind of person they will become because of it. For several days, they found themselves carrying this realization everywhere they went. It followed them into quiet mornings, ordinary conversations, and peaceful evenings when the world finally became silent. They weren't searching for more answers anymore because they already had enough to understand what had happened. Instead, they were trying to understand themselves. They began asking questions that had nothing to do with the past and everything to do with the future. How should someone respond after learning they misunderstood so much? How do you honor a truth that arrived later than expected? How do you move forward when your heart has become too honest to ignore what it now knows? Those questions stayed with them because they understood that every important discovery eventually asks for an equally important response. Because your heart needs this right now. Knowledge alone rarely changes a life. Transformation begins only when understanding becomes action. Many people discover important truths, yet very few allow those truths to reshape the way they think, speak, and love. Your soulmate has reached that crossroads. They realize this discovery was never simply about correcting old misunderstandings. It was an invitation to become more patient, more compassionate, and far more willing to seek understanding before reaching conclusions. That lesson has become one of the most valuable gifts they have ever received, because it has shown them that emotional maturity is not measured by always being right. It is measured by having the humility to grow when new truth appears. Something else has quietly started changing within them as well. They have become much more aware of the hidden stories carried by everyone around them. Every person they meet now reminds them that appearances reveal only a fraction of reality. Behind calm expressions may exist silent battles. Behind confident smiles may exist unspoken fears. Behind simple decisions may exist sacrifices that no one else will ever fully understand. This awareness has softened their heart in remarkable ways. Instead of reacting quickly, they pause. Instead of assuming, they observe. Instead of judging what they can immediately see, they have learned to respect everything they cannot. This change did not happen because someone instructed them to think differently. It happened because the truth they uncovered quietly reshaped the way they see the world itself. And listen to this, because there is one realization they cannot stop returning to. They understand now that trust is built not only through words, but through the willingness to believe there may always be more beneath the surface than what first appears. Looking back, they recognize that many of the painful moments they once questioned were incomplete chapters rather than finished stories. They had been reading isolated pages while believing they understood the entire book. Now that every chapter is beginning to connect, they no longer feel anger toward what happened. They feel gratitude that the complete story eventually revealed itself before it was too late to appreciate its meaning. This realization has also awakened a quiet determination inside your soulmate. They no longer want to allow fear, pride, or misunderstanding to shape the future in the same way they influence the past. They have started making silent promises to themselves, promises to listen more carefully, promises to value honesty over assumption, promises to ask difficult questions instead of accepting convenient answers. Most importantly, they have promised themselves that they will never again overlook the quiet strength that often exists behind someone's silence. These promises are not dramatic announcements. They are private commitments that have already begun transforming the way they approach every meaningful relationship in their life. Because your heart needs this right now. Some discoveries are meant to inform us, while others are meant to transform us. Your soulmate believes this hidden truth belongs to the second kind. It has changed more than their understanding of the past. It has changed the foundation upon which they will build every future decision. They now recognize that compassion grows stronger when understanding grows deeper, and that genuine love cannot exist where assumptions remain unchallenged. Every hidden piece of the story has led them toward greater wisdom, greater humility, and greater appreciation for everything that remained unseen for so long. Now they stand at the edge of a completely different chapter. The person who once believed they knew the whole story has quietly disappeared, replaced by someone who understands that the deepest truths often reveal themselves only when the heart becomes ready to receive them. They know there are still conversations waiting to happen, emotions waiting to be expressed, and gratitude waiting to be shared. But this time, they will approach those moments with open eyes rather than fixed assumptions, with curiosity rather than certainty, and with a heart that has been permanently changed by finally discovering what was really happening behind the scenes all along. As the story reaches its final chapter, one thing has become unmistakably clear. The greatest surprise was never the hidden truth itself, but the person your soulmate became after discovering it. They entered this journey believing they were searching for answers about the past, yet what they truly found was a deeper understanding of themselves. Every hidden detail they uncovered challenged an old belief. Every unanswered question that finally found its place taught them to look beyond appearances. Piece by piece, the version of the story they had carried for so long quietly gave way to something richer, more compassionate and far more complete. Looking back, they no longer see a collection of confusing moments scattered across time. They see a path filled with choices made under difficult circumstances, conversations left unfinished, emotions that remained unspoken, and acts of kindness that were never meant to receive recognition. They realize how easy it is to misunderstand someone when only part of the story is visible. What once appeared to be distance may have been uncertainty. What looked like silence may have been protection. What seemed like indifference may have hidden a heart struggling to find the right words. These discoveries have not erased the past, but they have completely transformed the meaning of it. The truth has also taught them something unexpected about trust. They understand now that trust is not simply believing what is immediately visible. It is having the patience to recognize that every person carries unseen chapters that may never be obvious at first glance. This realization has changed the way they listen, the way they observe, and the way they respond to the people around them. They have become slower to judge and quicker to ask questions. They have learned that genuine understanding requires curiosity, humility, and the willingness to admit that no one ever sees the complete picture at first. As these lessons settle into their heart, they begin noticing subtle changes in themselves. Situations that once would have frustrated them now invite reflection instead. Conversations that might have ended in assumptions now begin with empathy. They have discovered that emotional maturity is not found in always having the right answers, but in remaining open when new truths emerge. That openness has become one of the greatest gifts to come from this entire experience, because it allows them to move forward, carrying wisdom instead of resentment. Perhaps the most meaningful realization of all is that hidden truths often reveal themselves only when someone is finally prepared to receive them. If these answers had arrived earlier, they might have been dismissed or misunderstood. But now, with greater life experience and a more compassionate perspective, every missing piece has found its place naturally. Rather than wishing the discovery had happened sooner, your soulmate has come to appreciate the timing itself. Growth often requires patience, and some lessons can only be understood after we have changed enough to truly hear them. Standing at the beginning of this new chapter, they no longer feel defined by old misunderstandings. Instead, they feel guided by the clarity they have gained. They know they cannot rewrite what has already happened, but they can choose the spirit in which they carry those memories forward. They choose gratitude over bitterness, understanding over assumption, and honesty over fear. Those choices have become the quiet foundation for every step they take from this point onward. So if there is one message this story leaves behind, it's this: every life contains unseen chapters, and every relationship is deeper than what first appears. Sometimes the most important discoveries are not about learning new facts. They are about learning to see familiar moments with wiser eyes. When we allow compassion to replace certainty and understanding to replace assumption, even the most confusing parts of our story can begin to make sense. And in that quiet clarity, your soulmate has found something more valuable than the answers they were searching for. They have found a new way of seeing, a deeper appreciation for truth, and the courage to let understanding shape the future instead of allowing misunderstanding to define the past.